Okay, it's a little crude, but let me see if I can make this track. What we have up here to start is two distinctly separate inches. On their own, they are but that inches, single inches. Only when they are combined do we now have 1 square inch. Something that did not exist before, as we only had 2 separate inches combined. Now that's a square inch. And what a square inch represents in reality is this whole square, 4 inches. That is what the math represents in reality. This is the reality of what that math represents. 1 square inch. So, what a square inch consists of is 1, 2, 3, 4 separate inches, 4 inches, and the space inside the 4 inches. That is the reality of what the math represents. So, only when you have 2 standalone inches combined do we have a square inch. But since our reality is perceived in 3 dimensions, you're not accounting for that 3rd dimension. In order to be measurable by our 3-dimensional perception, the reality of the math has to account for 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. Okay, that's great. But to connect all 4 and make that square, make the square, and in order to perceive that square in our 3-dimensional reality, there has to be 3 dimensions, not just this on the paper here, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't perceive it. It would be like we can't see things in 2 dimensions. You can represent 2 dimensions on a page, but it still has that 3rd dimension, however small. So in order to be perceived, you need to account for another dimension, which you're not doing. So you have to add a dimension to the first 2 dimensions, and all that space above must be accounted for in order to perceive. However minimal it may be, like on this paper, the 3rd dimension here, for us, it's essentially 2, but it's very, obviously it has to have a 3rd dimension for us to perceive it. So the current way that you're doing multiplication, it's not accounting for everything. It doesn't actually reflect reality. It's not consistent with reality, and that's like the point here. Everything exists in a potential state until we observe it. That's what that slit experiment is about, right? Only upon our observation does it basically choose a state. So that's the 4th dimension that can account for the 3 dimensions of reality. Only our observation of 3-dimensional reality is what makes it reality. And so, by not accounting for all that space up in there, I don't know exactly the implications of all of that, but I'm sure he goes over that. I'm still putting together my own comprehension of it. And this is what I'm to understand is the flaw, that why the current geometry is not an accurate reflection of how reality works. Now, I'm going to try to get into the implications of all that, but I thought this would be enough to hopefully explain what I'm seeing here as far as at least the problem, and effectively continue discussion until